Those Were the Days is filmed before a live internet audience.
How y'all are? I guarantee it's time for Those Were the Days, the show where we are currently talking up the joys of cooking by taking a look at some of our favorite cooking shows from the past. Tonight we're going to belly up to the bar with a storyteller who also happens to enjoy cooking in front of people. That's right, we're going way down to Louisiana to spend some time in the kitchen of the Cajun King, Justin Wilson. Joining me tonight in the most 80s of 80s kitchens, I have look at the reach on this guy, Audie Norman.
So I'm going to tell you a little story that has nothing to do with anything we're about to talk about. So a young man named Alan was driving his pick-em-up truck down the road with a bunch of ducks in the back. He gets stopped by a police officer who informs Alan that he was speeding a bit. Then he asks him where he's going with all these ducks. Alan tells him he's not sure what to do with them. The officer responds helpfully, "Look, the zoo is not that far from here. That's as good a place as any to take them." Alan kindly thanks the officer and drives off. Well, the next day, this officer sees Alan in his pick-em-up truck again, hurtling down the road. This time, all the ducks are back there wearing little duck-sized sunglasses. The officer pulls over Alan again and growls, "I thought I told you to take those ducks to the zoo." Alan happily responds, "Oh, I did, but now they want to go down to the beach." That's the end of my story. Let's talk about some cooking.
This is wonderful. Making what might as well be an 85-mile journey from her stove to her table, Amy Frost.
I was gonna do like a whole thing, or I just like mumbled a lot, but I irritated myself even thinking about it, so I got nothing.
And finally, the soothing baritone, not remotely mumbly voice of TV's Travis.
Okay, so we have everything set up. The kitchen set is built. The cameras are there. The lights are ready. But Grandpa has wandered onto set telling stories, and he just started cooking, and no one can stop him. We've tried, but no one can. He just keeps going. So we're just going to turn the cameras on and go with it.
What Travis has just done is encapsulated everything that I learned about this show in one intro. We can hang it up. We can go home. There's no more purpose to be here. If this is your first time coming to Those Were the Days, welcome. We're happy to hear you listening. We think you've picked a good one. This month has been cooking shows. We've been to marvelous places. We've been to Iron Chef, basically the WWE of cooking. We've been to Yan Can Cook, an actual chef of great talent, able to teach anybody anything. And now we're wandering into Steven's neck of the woods with Justin Wilson's Easy Cooking. Now, Justin Wilson is a fella you might recognize, maybe not by name, but by look. Red suspenders, red bolo tie kind of jam, like a cowboy. Sometimes, but he got old and it doesn't fit around his wrinkly neck quite as much in this particular episode, so he left it at home. But Justin Wilson is the Cajun cook. Louisiana, his catchphrase, "I guarantee," which he uses a lot. Like, you think that might be just a Louisiana
Gets that
stereotype.
mileage.
Oh yeah.
Does he like get paid by the he gets like a penny a time? Is
I
that where we're at?
I mean, all I'm saying is
That
take a
phrase
shot.
was like a semicolon. Yeah.
will admit.
Don't take a shot. Because you
will
will
admit
not
that-
make it through the 20-minute episode of watching
No.
him if you take a shot every
Yeah.
time he says, "I guarantee."
Mm-hmm.
Prior
guarantee.
to this, I did think, because I of course knew I guarantee, but I did think that it was Chef Paul Prudhomme.
Mm.
I completely mixed the two up for that particular
Okay.
thing, which is weird.
Yeah. Well, I want to start this show by first of all saying you're welcome for putting you through this, because there's a few reasons that I know you're thanking me for it. And one of those reasons is that I could have gone all the way back to the early days of Justin Wilson when he was a spry young man of like 60. But no, I chose the Justin Wilson who's basically 900 years old to watch.
a mere 3 years before the end of his life.
You know. Hey, look, when 900 years old you are, look as good you will not. That's
I
all,
mean,
that's all I'm saying. But it's something. There's something to be said about a man who's willing to step in front of a camera, lay his cane on the kitchen counter behind him,
Right.
and get to work.
On the counter. Just
Right, just like Grandpa would.
Oh, yeah.
There's no difference in watching your grandpa in the kitchen and watching Justin Wilson on TV. He's gonna do the same things with the food that you cringe that your grandpa does, or your dad. If your dad's old enough, you look at him and you go, "What on earth did he just do to that food?" But then at the end of the day, you eat it, and everybody's happy. So this episode is all about chili rice chicken a la Creole, which our friend Justin Wilson is quick to admit he invented chili rice. As in, he's the first man to ever put chili powder in rice.
I'm
And
sure.
Mexico would like to have a word.
Yes, he has invented it. And then now he was willing to say chicken a la Creole was not his. But he does throw like that chili rice and put that in the pot with you. Get it boiling up. So anyway, let's get down to it. Who of you?
Okay, I'm keeping a running count of how many times Steven slides into Cajun.
I can't help it. And see, the intro of the show was rough because I couldn't tell how much I wanted to commit to the bit. And I was like, I can't. I'm not going to do it, but I will. I'll slide, Audie. I'll slide for you.
Oh, I know.
Amy, did you have any relationship with Easy Cookin prior to this episode, or him in general?
No, so like I said, I had in my head that I guarantee was Paul Prudhomme, and so like, but even that, like, I couldn't have told you about any. Like, I knew it was Cajun, I got that far, but no, this one, this was pretty new for me.
Sweet. How about you, Travis?
Honestly, I didn't have a lot of background with Justin Wilson. The most I knew about him was that there was a character in an episode of Good Eats that was a mashup of Paul Prudhomme and Justin Wilson. He's kind of both of them put together, a parody of them. But like, I knew I guarantee, and I knew the look. I knew the blue shirt, the red suspenders. That was it. I didn't watch a lot of it. I may have caught an episode here or there that like popped up, but it wasn't super high on my radar.
Yeah. Audie, how about you?
Well, I'm going to join the crowd of saying nope. Not very familiar with him. Like, he's one of those that, similar to Yank Cook, I remember it being advertised on PBS growing up, but that's about it. Like, you know, I remember the I guarantee kind of thing. It's funny. The whole time he was cooking, I was like, this reminds me of every old man at the church that would cook for whatever thing we had going on.
Yep.
With the same old, like, I will chop your arm off if you get near my pot.
Yes. Yes.
That was good. That's a good rule, though. Actually, I was pretty impressed by that. Like, first of all, so the thing where he stuck his finger in the rice to measure the proportion of rice to water. I learned how to cook Chinese food from one of my mother's friends who grew up in Taiwan, and that she taught me the same thing. I can't do it that way though. I have to.
Yeah,
measure it.
I've heard that too.
Right.
That was the
Can't
first
do
I'd
it,
ever
so.
heard of that. And the first I'd ever heard, he said, look at your neighbor. See that tip of their finger the same size as your finger. Same on everybody. You know? And I was like,
I
wait,
don't know
what?
about
Is that a
that,
thing? Like,
Mickey.
what is he spouting crazy Southern wisdom again? Which is not always real. This is really
It's
great.
basically supposed to be sort of like the proportion between like your first knuckle and your second knuckle, and one is the
Okay.
rice and then the water. That's
Oh,
supposed to work.
that's a pretty good rule. I like things like that. You know,
It's
you've
good,
always got
right?
your fingers until you don't.
Yeah.
Right.
If you've seen me
You
work
probably
with
got at
knives,
least
you know
one,
that's
though.
not always there. If I was cooking every day, good chance I'm gonna be like, Justin, I don't have the ability to do that. By the way, I'd like to go ahead and reassure everyone named Justin that you can live to your old age. I've now seen an old man named Justin. Not like Josh. I've never met an old man named Josh. So
You know, that's a really good point. You don't hear about or see a lot of really old Justins,
Yeah.
do you?
No.
Like
yeah,
it just doesn't happen.
right.
They're
Which
always
is
like
why I'd
40
like
or
to.
young.
I want to let our Justins know that they've got a
It's
chance.
possible. There you go. You're not going to move very quick by the time you get there, but you're going to get there.
So I don't know how to break down this show other than in different just maybe segments. I don't even Travis, you're really correct that he wanders onto set and just says, "How y'all are," which I found endearing.
That was very good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I like that a
And
lot.
and
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy that you can see me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
And he's been saying
so
that
Now,
for years, I guess.
mhm.
no one can convince me that this was a set.
Right.
Like the audience is definitely in his living room, like looking through the door. Like there's no way,
That certainly speaks to the decoration of the set, though. I mean, you felt
right?
like
Like
you
I
could
feel
Yeah.
like,
easily be in his double wide in
yeah.
Louisiana enjoying whatever. Now, that was definitely a ranch home, if anything. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's
Mhm.
ranch home all the way. No basements in
Mm.
Louisiana. Can't have that.
Mm-mm.
No, no,
Oh
no.
no.
No. But it's a ranch home, and he is happy because he ain't getting around very fast. If he's got stairs, he's like that
Yeah,
old
there's
lady in
no
Gremlins.
stairs.
There's a
No.
little wheelie roller chair. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so it's similar. Like with this show, I don't have much of a relationship with it, and by not much of one, I mean zero. I've never watched it before. But my brother-in-law Jacob has mentioned Justin Wilson countless times whenever we're cooking. Like we're making po' boys, shrimp po' boys. Justin Wilson will come up.
Mhm.
Stories of this. So I thought when cooking month, I'm just gonna do Justin Wilson. Jacob talks about him all the time, and I need some foundation when he goes into his Justin Wilson. Now I understand. And I am so happy I
Mhm.
watched it. And not only that, 1998, I think, was when this aired. So it's butting up
Mhm.
against our limit. But I also got old
Didn't look
Justin
like it.
Wilson. Yeah, it didn't look
Yeah,
like
it
it, right? The production value of this puts it dead in 1983.
Mhm.
No later. But it's all, to me, the chicken a la Creole is fine. Like, we all learned how to cook. We all learned how to dump chili powder into rice. We
Yeah.
all learned that boiling chicken is gross, Justin Wilson. I don't know what boiled chicken you were eating. Is that y'all's experience of boiled chicken, or is that just a me
Yeah.
thing?
No. Like
Okay.
I would have he got the like cuz the chicken was already cooked before he
Mhm.
put it in with the Rotel
Mhm.
tomatoes
Right.
and all that. And like so that's my like nowadays, right? That's my I'm going to get the rotisserie chicken from the deli and then
Exactly.
I'm just going to use that
Yeah.
and that'd be okay.
I'll-
But yeah, boiled chicken
Yeah.
is not
there was some point early in our marriage where Julia did it something with boiled chicken or canned chicken. It was like, I can't do that again. No, thank you.
Mm-mm.
So like now when I'm cooking, I'll either do it in the pan or do it on the grill or get a rotisserie. Like those are
Mhm.
my three options I'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah, rotisserie chicken pre-cooked, fine. You could do that. Make that chicken a la Creole with that. Good. Don't boil the chicken. Just that's like a one-way ticket to just flavorless
Yeah.
meh.
And when
Mhm.
he did bring the chicken out, and he mentioned it had been boiled and pre-cooked, boiled, and he started chewing. He chewed on it for a half an hour. Did y'all,
I know.
like, did he put
He
bubble gum in his
probably
mouth?
forgot to put his teeth in before the shoot.
Well, so here's the thing. My father-in-law, before he passed away, he was very old, like 82, 83. I saw so much of him in Justin Wilson in the kitchen. Stephanie and I were watching it together, and she was as bewildered as I was at the whole thing. She's like, I feel like I'm watching Dad cook. 'Cause it was just this kind of telling stories, reaching miles for things. Like,
Uh-huh.
no one
Gotta
wanted to
stay
make
in
his job
frame.
easy
No.
No.
because he had to
So-
wander from place to place. And
Like everything was prepped for him and set out, but the
Mhm.
problem was that he had to take 4 steps to get to anything,
90% of
and
this
that
could have
takes a
been
while.
fixed with a lazy Susan.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like just
Mhm.
put it on the counter, no
Just a lazy
problem.
Susan and a production assistant on the other side swapping things out.
Yeah.
So
Because
as he
he
grabbed
also
something, he
needed
put
a
something else on.
hand to rest on something as he's attempting to walk
Yeah.
anywhere
Yeah,
to take any 2 steps.
to reach
I
for
was like,
anything.
somebody hand it to him. Hand it to him.
Please
Get a
help that
buddy.
man.
Yeah.
He would reach so far for the spices and then like trimmer bringing the spices back to him, and I'm like, you are wonderful because you're older than dirt and you're doing the job and you are talking to people. Like, if you were to sit me down in front of folks, I would just, at that age, I would probably do the same. I'd just start talking to people and making my food,
Mhm.
making my breakfast. I'm just
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
macaroni. What are you all doing? And that really is part of the charm, I thought, from my
Yeah.
experience watching it was just, I just feel like I'm being told stories of how to cook things. And we've been watching some very pro cooks so far, like very pro.
Yeah.
And I think to me, in my kitchen skill level, I learned a lot from Yan. I would watch Yan a million times. We talked about that this week. But I learned a little bit about cooking confidence from Justin Wilson, watching him in that he's basically teaching you through his, that's a teaspoon, I guarantee. By just saying, I got close enough. Don't sweat it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I got it in my hand. Because Stephanie looked at it, she said, "That's way more than a tablespoon, buddy. You're
Yeah.
way more."
That's what I
Yeah.
That was a
Justin's-
heavy teaspoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Justin apparently is a favorite of Julia's, and she was like, "I learned how to do that from him." I'm like, okay.
All right.
You're like, now I know why the food tastes like it does.
I plead the fifth.
Powerful.
It was also fun to see, like, he had the recipe written out on the counter, and he was just reading the recipe to you
Yeah.
as he's trying to cook it. And like, okay, I can respect that. That's cool. And then he would grab something like the onions, the dried onions that I guess got rehydrated
Yeah.
because he
put in
went
the water.
to dump them out, and they
Uh-huh.
just nothing happened. He's like, I thought. So now he's got to, it's another 15 minutes while he wanders back over to get a spoon and come back to scrape them out of there. And man, he made sure to scrape
Yeah.
and get nothing else out of that bowl, but he scraped it.
Oh, go ahead, Audie.
I was just gonna say, I loved how he smelled everything to make sure it was what it was. Like, oh yeah, that's the onions, all right.
The olfactory is the
That
last
chili
to
powder
go.
make you sneeze.
Speaking of scraping, one of the first things Stephanie brought up, we sat down to watch it, was how he loved that metal spoon on that metal pot right at the start. And she's like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. I was like, just hang on.
The rice, all of his rice techniques were like A+, and I was very into that. And I was like, yes, good. You do slap somebody's hand if they open the pot while the rice is cooking, because you need to
He's like,
steam it.
cut their arm off.
Yeah. So, but the best part is, so he gets the rice going, right? And then he's like, all right, oh, we better, it's gonna take, we better start this chicken. And then he breaks into the story.
And it made me think of Grumpy Old Men and Burgess Meredith, where he just started telling the story.
Yes.
And it's like, what? Yeah, Pop, what? What? Huh? Well, what happened? I just like that story. Like, he's just like in the middle of things. You know what? It's a story popped into his head about his friend who went duck hunting with the bank man and his dog Fido, which, by the way, Fido, Phideaux. Damn, Skippy.
I know.
I'm just glad you said bank man, because every time he kept saying, I didn't know what he was saying. I'm like, who?
You're like, this house that we lending you that money for. That's the only way that I could put it together. I did catch that part. Because he as I pieced it together, his friend wouldn't take anyone duck hunting.
Yeah.
And then the bank, I didn't get that that's what it was. But then he's like, oh, you like this house I lent you that money for? And then I eventually and he's like, he knew he was up to something. And I was like, I do. What?
How?
What?
How does he know? We don't even know who he is. What's going on?
Like taking note. What?
However, I have met many of people that have told jokes exactly like that, and it's an endurance trial. You got to make it through. But if you can stay with it, that punchline is good.
Oh yeah, that was a payoff.
I never did get that dog learn how to swim.
Oh yeah, if you for some reason didn't watch this before you listened to us, just go to YouTube and watch it. It was just magic. But yeah,
the only problem with it being on YouTube is we have no subtitles.
None.
Which really would have come in handy.
There's no way to understand it. This is what I was gonna get to, is that Stephanie and I were sitting there watching. She kept going, "Wait, what did he say? What did he say? What did he say?" And I could follow. I was picking up on it, but I grew up around my grandfather, who wasn't too far. He wasn't Cajun. He was South Alabama, but it was about like this. You just and you do what I like to call verbal post processing. You hear it,
Yes.
and then you work out what was said. Like you're
Yeah.
always about 2
Yep.
to 3 seconds behind everything coming into your ears.
Slag.
You're like, I need context, and it's amazing because I'm like, this band probably has talked to people who don't have English as their first language, and it's just like,
Oh yeah.
Lord help them. You know, like what
I
if
mean,
someone from Eastern Europe lands in Baton Rouge? Just like, I'll go talk to people. No, you're not. No, you're not.
listen, when you're in that part of the country, English isn't necessarily your first language anyway. Like
Yeah.
it is that Creole and that Cajun, and like structured so weird. You do need to
Yeah.
post profits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also like a good old boy like that, you don't even have to say words. You're like, yeah, oh yeah, uh-huh,
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, uh-huh.
Entire conversations can be held without a single word used. It's just
Mhm.
mutterings and mumblings and like context clues, and that's
Yeah.
it. It's amazing.
I've
And
seen
he
it
made
happen.
he made a television show out of it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I remember being at the gas station with my grandpa because my grandpa was one of those people that hung at the gas station back when they
Sure.
were called service stations. You just stand there, and I
Mhm.
would ask them to buy me ice cream out of a little ice cream cooler thing, that
Nice.
got filled up who knows when. Either potato chips and this cloud of smoke an inch thick. All up in there,
Mhm.
I don't know if my lungs are
Mhm.
still in good health. Who knows? But it was good stuff. But that's the kind of conversation you hear. It's like I don't know what they're saying, but they're mumbling at each other, and that's
They
great.
seem to know,
They seem
so
to have
that's fine.
they seem to have a handle on
Right.
it. Uh, but yeah. So as far as the cooking goes, there were a couple things I know I want to give Travis and Amy time to point out because I didn't really think too much of it as I watched this man throw a bunch of mint in here or whatever he was dealing with. Amy, what ground? I didn't understand what that ingredient was because he went past it so fast. I'm like, wait, what
So
did he say?
there were a couple of times, right? Because like this is also not like I have a passing familiarity with Cajun food, um,
Mm-hmm.
and but and like we said, right? This is like your dad or grandpa in the kitchen, right? So we're just making food, and like he talked about with he said he invented chili rice when that was just it was what he had and they
Yeah.
had to eat. Fine, great.
Mhm.
Like I get that. All right, so we're not doing haute cuisine here. We're just cooking. Fine. So
On one end of the spectrum, you have Iron Chef, and on the
yeah,
other end of the spectrum, you have Easy Cooking with Justin Wilson. Like in
Mm-hmm.
terms of
yeah.
ingredients and what they're making.
Let's
Sure.
give
Mhm.
Iron Chef this week's ingredient is a can of Rotel
You're
tomatoes.
right. They'd be like, "Wait, what?"
Um, and so it the first one I kind of almost glossed over because he talked about how he used to use celery and he doesn't do that anymore because the flavor was overwhelming and I was like, pardon me. Like,
See,
pardon now.
yeah, and when that
My
moment
only
came up, I kind of heard that, and I sort of did like the dog thing where my head cocked to one
Yeah.
side. And like,
Now he did say he was using dried vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
yes,
So I was like, okay, I kind of understand, like, because celery, like, there's celery salt, and like celery it does have a flavor when you concentrate it. So I was like, okay, I will let this go. So then when we get to the chicken, after we've put in the Cajun ketchup, which I thought that was pretty cute. That was pretty good.
that there's steak
Mhm.
sauce.
I was pretty happy about that. And he talks about he used to put in a bay leaf because he loves bay, but the bay would be overwhelming. Okay, I mean, bay's not, uh, especially we're not cooking for like 12 hours. Like we're not gonna
Also,
overdo it.
honestly, go to 100 people and ask them what bay tastes like, and none of them can
Yeah,
tell you what it tastes like
Mhm.
yeah.
because no one knows what
It's one of
bay
those
actually tastes like.
undertones. So he says, but it's overwhelming. So I don't use that anymore. I use mint instead. Now I have no problem
Yep.
with using mint as a flavoring, as an ingredient in literally anything. I'm a big fan of the traditionally sweet used in savory. I put cloves in, but by saying that the bay was overwhelming So we're gonna use mint?
Once again, we're on a spectrum here of bay is on one end and like mint is on the other
It's on
end
Mhm.
in terms of
Oh,
intensity. Uh,
yeah.
that was the one where
Yeah.
I was I kind of I developed a slight twitch for a minute. I'm like, okay, what
What?
now? Why for how?
So
But
now, right? So now, because you tell me you're gonna put a bay leaf in this chicken thing with the rotel, tomatoes, and the onions, and the stuff that you put in there. I was like, okay, all right. But then you're like mint, and I went, what? And so I cannot conceivably imagine what, like, because I cook a lot. I eat a lot of different foods, right? So like usually when I'm watching, even if it's a food I haven't had before, when you're reading through the ingredients, you go, yeah, okay, no, I get how that works. I'm
yeah,
not saying it won't
Yeah.
work. I just it was beyond my comprehension.
Yeah, I got to the point and I
Almost
was
as
like,
much as the dog story.
okay, Mr. Wilson, I don't think it's that bay is bad. I think you just don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't
Which is
think
fine.
that's
You know,
silly.
you
I
said
think
you
you
do.
don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were a lot of decisions made with the food. I mean, that being said, I want to eat it. You know, I mean,
Sure.
it looked pretty great. One thing that did crack me up because I mean, most of the food I ate growing up came from a can. You know, like
Yeah.
canned
Mhm.
beans. We could do canned. We could make sausage, but we got a can of sausage. You know, with gravy. Can of sausage
sure,
gravy.
sure.
I mean, it's just the way I grew up. That's the way we did it. So he's doing rotel tomatoes and then like a handful of seasonings and boiled chicken. I'm like, yes, this is familiar to me.
Mhm.
Because boiling chicken's easy when you got children running around. You throw it in
Yeah.
there and forget. That's
Yep.
before we had instant. Well, I mean, we had pressure cookers, I guess, but you know, you didn't have an air fryer for your chicken. I've
Right.
thrown a whole chicken in the air fryer and it came out amazing. It's like now my go-to chicken thighs in the air fryer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done. I got everything I need.
You mean the
But
chicken ties? You got the chicken
that's
ties in there?
right.
Oh yeah, that was the other
Chicken
story.
ties. That took me that entire story and then more to figure out what he was talking about.
Yup.
But yeah, at one point he's telling the story about him and his Louisiana friend went to a place, asked for two ties and a wing at the chicken place. I want 2 ties and a wing, and the waitress said, "Excuse me, 2 ties and a wing. I don't understand. I want
What?
2 ties and a wing." And she looked at Justin and said, "What's he trying to say? He wants 2 ties and a wing." And she said, "I thought he was about to hit both of us." 'Cause they were both from Louisiana. Thighs. I looked at Stephanie and went,
Thighs.
thighs. That's what he's saying.
I did like the chicken.
Chicken.
The
Mhm.
soft.
Oh yeah,
The soft. That was real nice. I did
that
like that. We don't.
chicken a la Creole.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I learned so much about how to speak, and I also learned about the
Mhm.
It's like
kind of growing.
reverse elocution.
Yes, just whatever makes a sound, make it not make a sound. Just why I'm a little bit, just get on down now.
Mhm.
And nobody will know what you're talking about, but they'll all nod and agree because that's why we're
'Cause-
polite. You know,
Mhm.
it's how you get
Yeah.
through talking to people like that. You go, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh there go boys, they
Alright.
go down, go to my duck
Oh,
hunt,"
yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like, yeah,
I
yeah, they do.
literally have lived that because I when I was in my early 20s, I was in a relationship with somebody from Virginia. I visited her grandfather. I might have told this story before somewhere, but her grandfather I met. He looked, and I'm not saying a little bit, he looked exactly like Roy Scheider,
All right.
but he had that kind of a drawl. Couldn't understand a
Mhm.
thing the man said. So I just, yeah, of course, yeah. Uh-huh. That was the answer to everything because he would just. I might as well have been talking to Boomhauer. Like no clue.
Yeah.
Yep.
My dad used to do that to my friends because he's got an Alabama drawl, and some of my friends can't understand him better than other friends. And I had this one particular friend, and my dad literally looked at him and said, "You got such an ugly monkey face." And he said, and my buddy was like, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, he can't understand me." And I was like, "No, he
That's how you
can't."
test them.
Yeah, that's how you get him. You just insulted. He
Yeah.
laughed.
I've worked in retail for like 20 years, and customer service. So you got to be more non-committal than that. You got to go, "Oh, right. Wow, yeah."
Mhm.
Yeah.
You can't agree. You just got to go, "Oh,
Nope.
wow."
You
Yeah.
don't agree, you don't disagree. You're just like neutral answer.
Yeah,
go.
because they're asking for a 50% discount because the retail tag on the shelf was different than the tag on the item.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Mhm.
wait, what? You go, yeah, of course. And they're like, okay. And you're like, what?
What?
Oh, that was a question. What? Huh?
Oh, all right.
But yeah, so Justin Wilson, just a character. The thing okay, so we watched through this whole thing. We get to the point where he combines everything. He finally cooking shows it. You know, he does the traditional. Oh, I'm gonna let that chicken boil 25 minutes, but I got some already fixed up over here. And he makes his journey from Hobbiton to Mordor to get the bowl, take the cellophane.
No eagles to be found.
No, there are no eagles on this journey. If he was taking the ring, we'd still be reading about it.
Still be waiting.
Mhm.
But he goes over there and gets his cellophane bowl of chicken and combines everything, and he just mixing. I mean, he just mixing and stirring the
Yeah.
whole. Like it's nothing I don't feel I could handle if you put me down
Yeah.
in front of this recipe. And he makes himself a little plate, tells everybody how delicious it's gonna be, and then we end the
Says-
episode by just sitting down at the table and eating breakfast.
Yeah, he's like, didn't have breakfast because I'm gonna eat all this right now. It's like, okay.
Just like, are we gonna
And
close?
Gotta
the
pour a
show?
little
So the best-
wine.
So the best part was, now he did also say, if you wouldn't drink it, don't cook with it, and that
Yes.
is
Mhm.
a very
Mhm.
good. That's a very important rule. And
Mhm.
because I have friends, like I'll cook with the good stuff, largely because I'm not gonna. If something needs like a tablespoon of brandy, I'm not gonna go buy an entire bottle of not great brandy
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and have it just sit forever. I'm
Right.
just gonna use the good stuff, and if I run out of good stuff,
Yeah.
You just-
and and so the wild part was, right, so he's eating, and then it like cuts to the end of the show, right, and then presumably, like, I don't know if it was like a station ID or whatever used to be there, but then it goes back and he's just eating, and then everyone starts to applaud again.
Yeah.
And he's just
Or
mumbling to himself.
just
So
yeah.
good. I guarantee.
he's just applauding him, like him eating.
Yeah.
And I do still picture them leaning in from the living room looking through the door.
Yeah. Oh, look, he's enjoying it. I was thinking, man, I'd be pretty tickled to be 83 years old and, having people applaud that I'm eating. Like,
Yeah.
I think this was really his plan for lunch that day. Oh, I'll just I'll just have lunch at the office. But when your office
Yeah.
is a cooking
Yep.
show, and like, oh, just drop me off at the entrance. I'll just have lunch at the office this morning. I'm gonna make it myself anyway. Like.
Might as well.
But he did say he was going to share, with the audience. We just never get to see that part. And I'm assuming if you
Right.
hang around long enough, the 4 bowls of soup you can get out of whatever he made is what you're going to enjoy. So I guess there's in this cooking show theme, there's not a whole lot of ground to cover. We've been through a lot of it. So I guess at the end of the day, one of the first questions, did the recipe look good? Is it something you would be willing to try? Amy, Travis, let's start with you.
I would try the chili rice because that's it's not that far off from a lot of the stuff that I'll do to rice anyway, just to give it a little something. Throw a little chili powder in there, cook it up. I don't see a problem with that. Like, it's no different than getting rice-a-roni.
Sure.
Mhm.
Probably tastes better than that. The chicken a la Creole, I want to try that dish, but maybe not exactly the way he made it. Like, I'm not. I try very hard not to be like, well, we can always make this better with better, fresher ingredients,
Oh,
and like
yeah.
go super that way. But I'm not using boiled chicken.
No.
That just ain't happening. And I am gonna put bay leaf in mine.
Boom.
And I probably won't use dried, but I will take the time to cut up some fresh onions because
Oh, no.
Mhm.
that's just
Which
how it
is
is.
that
But
my dad still said, like, so this is the thing, right? I have no history with this show. My father says onion all of the time. So, like, clearly, but I mean, they also both worked in TV, my parents. So, like,
Mhm.
it could have just even been something that, they were watching when they were running the station or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, who knows? But
Yeah, it's one of those things you can pick
yeah.
up on because it's an easy word to mess with. It's like when your mom says, "Take the thing out to the garage."
Yeah.
You're like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's just a weird word, weird way to say a word. Onions. My
But
father-in-law
we
used
did,
to say
and yeah.
"bullets" instead of bullets. It was just for fun. It was just a weird way to swing. I go and pick up
Mhm.
some bullets. I was like, "What's a bullet?" Bullets. You put in a goon.
Yep.
Just to mess with you. Audie, how about you? What do you think? Would you make this recipe?
Yeah, I probably would. I'd go down to the K Roger and get some ingredients for it. Like Travis, I'm not boiling my chicken. That ain't
Yeah.
happening.
Oh.
It's funny. I did end up making some jambalaya this past weekend. And it felt
Mm,
kind of similar. So I was like, yeah, I'll just try this.
yeah.
And
Huh.
you know,
Huh.
it felt a lot like that in separate parts. I was like, let's just throw it all together.
Sure. Sure. Amy, would you make this dish?
I mean, a quick look at uh chicken a la Creole here, and from my Google search, I'm gonna go ahead and say that he maybe did make this. I know he says he didn't, but I'm looking at these recipes and I'm going, I think maybe he did.
Oh.
Because I'm doing the like, all right, well, what's it? I don't want to say supposed to be because
Yeah.
that's, but like,
Traditionally.
okay, traditionally, whatever, you know what I mean? And no, I'm pretty sure he made it. I'm pretty
He
sure
just
he did
admitted
make
it and
this up.
he doesn't remember.
Yeah.
That or he's the first person on record for making it, you know?
I mean,
Yeah.
that's also true. But there are a couple other recipes for it that are essentially the same. They don't use the Rotel tomatoes; they just use plain diced tomatoes, and then they
Mhm.
add. There's a couple with bell peppers in it that I
Ooh.
feel like would be a nice addition.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it's not that different. I call it chicken cacciatore, but it is categorically not that. But that's just it was like I started with a recipe, but I didn't have everything, and so I just sort of started to wing it. But that's what it has now become called.
Yeah.
And it's not that
Mhm.
different from this. It's
Yeah.
just a little more Italian than, Creole
Mhm.
or Cajun.
Yeah. I would totally make this thing. I think Rotel tomatoes and all. I might not use the whole tomatoes in a can that he used because I think at one point he's
No.
like, "Oh, we just use a whole tomato." I'm like, why don't you just get diced
Mm,
already?
Nice.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a big
Mhm.
fan of chunks. I feel like there's a
Mm.
certain
Yeah, me either.
generation and a certain age in which chunks of food is something that you want in your like. My father-in-law, I know I'm bringing him up a lot, but it's just because I saw a lot of him and Justin Wilson in the way they cooked and the way they acted while in the kitchen, meandering from place to place with no real, seemingly no real purpose other than just to go over there for a second. But he would, I mean, on a hamburger, his onion was cut about half the size of, or no, at least the size of the beef or more. Like he would cut a chunk of
Mhm.
onion and a chunk of tomato, and like everything he served me after a certain point of his life was just you couldn't put the whole thing in your mouth. You were gonna bite it in half. Like it's tomatoes in soup,
So
chunk of tomato.
I will say this: the whole tomatoes canned like that, because I use whole tomatoes when I make tomato sauce,
Mm-hmm.
and I buy the can of whole tomatoes and then I crush them myself. And I would do that
Yeah.
because you just dump them into a bowl, use a potato masher, or get in there with your hands and just crush them all up.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're gonna cook it for a little while, they're gonna fall apart anyway. So
Sure.
I
Yeah.
would do that.
Yeah.
I just found a slow cooker one. They use the whole
Oh.
tomatoes, which because they're just gonna break down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They'll
That'd be real nice.
if they cook down, I'm good with it because I'm not a big tomato fan,
Mm.
like in general. But if it's like a vegetable soup where the tomato is the base and it's not like a big character, it's like okay, well there's tomato juice and little tomatoes, but then there's other deliciousness all sprinkled in. It's a lot of good
Mhm.
flavors. Anyway, I don't know anything about cooking, but I know I would make this without that. I will say, you guys inspired me a lot. And we're trying to post Christmas budgeting in January means we eat at home a lot more than we were. Y'all know what I'm
Mhm.
talking about. So we're
Mhm.
eating a lot at home, so I'm having to invent more things. And the other day I was like, I don't know what to make. And so I had to come up with something. And I chopped up potatoes into little wedges and put them in my air fryer. And we had homemade chips. And I am now like the savior of dinner for my son. He's like, these chips are really good. We should have more of those chips you made. I'm like, I made something delicious. They may be potato
So
chips, but I did that on a whim with no skill.
I love that. That is amazing.
That makes me happy.
And yeah, I'm with Amy. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
And see,
I
now that
I
you've done
mentioned
that, throw more stuff in next time.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Get some different seasoning to play with it.
I'm excited about it. I got it. I achieved, and now I'm excited. So that's
Excellent.
what cooking's about. Go ahead, Travis. You were saying.
Well, I did mention last week how I was going to buy wonton skins, wonton
Oh
wrappers,
yeah.
and I did,
Mhm.
and I made dumplings, and
Mm.
they were fantastic. They were
Oh,
hideous to look at, but they tasted amazing, and I will make more of them.
isn't that
That's
great?
all that
Like,
really matters.
yeah, I've learned. I know I might have said it last week, but I was most unsure about the cooking show category of this show that we're doing here tonight. I had no idea what it was going to be, and I have walked away the most enlightened on what we've gotten to see and the joy of cooking that can be had if you just take some time to just think about what you want to make and put some love into it, and it might just be little chips. It might be a delicious Cajun chicken Creole dinner or chicken cacciatore. Who knows? Just put your heart
Mhm.
into it and there you go.
And like anything, it's a skill you have to build up. Like you
Sure.
can't just be a great cook right away.
Yeah.
Look at the recipes, figure out the recipes you can do that you like, and then
Mhm.
go from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So that has been Justin Wilson Easy Cooking. Does anybody have any final thoughts going into the show? Would you watch it again?
I did watch some more because the dog wanted to sit in the chair, so I put the episode back on, rewatched it, and then just kind of let YouTube run with more
Mhm.
easy cooking. So he made some peach ice cream at one point, or sherbet,
Oh,
um,
There you go.
which like half that episode was just him loading ice into the ice cream
Yeah.
maker.
Yeah.
it's the
Mhm.
noisiest episode ever. The gain on
It
his
really was.
microphone was off the charts. Could hear his heartbeat.
1998, you guys.
I
That's
know.
the part that kills me.
Yeah.
He was 98?
No, it was 1998.
Oh,
Was what I
okay.
was saying, and it was just
Mhm.
like, really?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, I know that's like a while ago now, but surely
No,
we could have done better.
You
It's
could hear his heart beating in his chest through that microphone.
yeah, you could.
Unbelievable.
It's
The
funny.
the sound of that water boiling in the rice was
Yes.
every time
Uh,
he'd go past that pot and you just hear it like the Doppler effect of the
and he
rice
kept saying he
boiling.
was going to do something with it, and then he wouldn't do something with it. It's like you just said you're going to do something with it.
He
Why don't
never
you do
put
that something?
which I thought was cool, for the gas
The
stove,
the heat
the heat
dissipator
diffuser. I was like, oh, did he?
he did
I missed
finally
He
it.
put it
did.
underneath
All
it.
He
right.
Like
did
I
not
was like,
he
I
did
want one
not
of those.
ever put the lid on the chicken Creole. He cooked,
Yes.
which he
No,
kept
did
saying he
not.
was going to do,
Yeah.
and then he
that's
got
all
busy
right.
trying to fix his own plate. It's like you never put that lid on like you said you was going to do.
I hope to be half as enjoyable
Mm.
and entertaining at that age as he was, and I'll consider myself lucky.
His
Mhm.
Wikipedia page says he recorded several comedy albums. I want to listen
Yeah.
to that and see what
Yeah, he
that's
was
like.
so this kind of character that he became got started in he was like a safety engineer when he was younger, and he would go around to plants telling, doing that in Louisiana, and he developed and started telling these stories because he realized that he was putting his audience to sleep, and so he wanted to start telling some more humorous stories, and that's where that whole kind of persona came about.
That's amazing. That kind of stuff is fast. Like we've heard about multiple folks who have had their career start by just doing weird stuff at their normal job, like Bob Newhart doing the phone game with his buddy
Yeah.
at their job that became his comedy thing, and now Justin Wilson's like, I just told stories at the plants that I would go to for safety inspection, and that's cool to me. Always be on
Mm.
the lookout for ways you can make your hobbies work for you, I guess is what I'm learning from these kinds of things. Um,
Mhm.
but
It
yeah,
makes me wonder if he's like Larry the Cable Guy, where that's like a whole shtick, and he goes
sure.
home and is like, Man, Margaret, can you believe what I had to do today? I said I guarantee like 5 times, and I think that was enough.
Oh yeah, you're right. Like you got to use the catchphrase. I got to be this
Yeah.
character for the
Mhm.
next 2 hours. I don't know
Mhm.
if it's a character, he wears that thing well. You know,
Mhm.
I don't know how easy that is to fake. For as long as he did it, maybe it is. I
Well,
don't know.
yeah. I mean, it may have started as a character, and he just lived into it, and it's like
Sure.
can't turn it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I know is that I could watch this again. I did try watching a couple of them to try to figure out what episode to do, but there's one about hamburgers and original grits or something that he did. And I don't know if he cooked the hamburger before he put it in the water, and it was really weirding me out. So I'm glad we picked chicken chili rice. Go look at that. Go look that up when you have some free
Yes.
time.
Gonna check that one out now.
Because
Yeah, no
I'm
doubt.
pretty sure he just dumped raw hamburger into a pot of water, and I'm just like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Boiled
It's
chicken's one thing, boiled hamburger is a whole nother animal.
I'm like,
Ooh.
it's such a
You can-
generational
now we
thing of just
seal it in a
boiling
vacuum
everything.
bag. Now we seal it in a vacuum bag and sous vide it and then sear it
Ooh.
on the outside. Now we're
Mhm.
talking about
There
something.
you go.
That's the way to do it.
I
Yeah.
literally didn't pick that episode because I was unsure if I could ever eat what he was making.
Upset.
Yeah.
I'm upset.
Just there's your bonus episode, everybody. Go give that a look. Hamburgers and I can't remember what he called it. Some kind of grit. I was like, that sounds kind of weird and good. No, I don't not want it. Peach ice cream would have been a much better thing. But anyway, we're gonna leave Louisiana and head on to somewhere else next week. Amy is taking us on a journey. Amy, where are we going?
So there have been like 8 different segues into me telling you what we're gonna do next week, and I am like frantically trying to decide which one I'm going to pick. But you mentioned that he did the classic. Here's one I prepared earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You also said that we talked about learning to cook and how you just got to do it. And a quote from an episode that I did not pick, but I did screen. It was like my backup episode. Was that my chef rants against the awful American syndrome of fear of failure and defines the art of cooking as one failure after another till you figure it out. We are going to the OG, the French chef herself, Julia Child.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. Hell yes.
We're watching. All right, so it's season 7, episode 4, To Roast a Chicken. Now, these are all available on the Roku channel for free. On there, it's listed under the 1971 season. It's a little weird to find, but that's To Roast a Chicken is the important part.
Roasted chicken. All right.
It's a real good one, you guys. It's real good. I'm gonna dork out so hard because Julia is a huge hero of mine. Her house in Provence in France is an Airbnb now. And so you can go and they do like cooking events there. And so you can like go stay in her house, which I would love to do, except I could not cook in her kitchen because she was 6'2" and everything was built to her height. So
Wow.
I would not be able to reach anything in that kitchen. But I do, that's on my bucket list is to go to Julia's house in Provence. So
Oh,
I'm
that's
so
amazing.
excited.
Oh, I'm so excited. I've never watched an episode
It's a
of
good
Julia
one.
Child, so this
I'm very excited. So this is great because I'm excited for us I'm excited, especially for you to watch, right? Because of a lot of things you've said about this episode. Because Julia Child is one of those things you think you know, right? Because
Mhm.
I mean, it was even to the point where when I was previewing the episodes, I've watched so many actresses portraying Julia Child that I'd kind of forgotten what actual Julia was like. So I'm excited for you to see what actual Julia
yeah.
is like. And this episode is a really good one. It's just roasting we're just gonna roast a chicken.
Oh, that's exciting. I can't wait. Thank you, Amy, for picking that. That's going to
Perfect.
be a great time. Also, I don't know if we're ready to announce what options we have for the theme
I don't
following
think so.
Amy's
I
episode.
don't-
But what we will do is post that poll for you either on Twitter or if you get wind of, or in the show notes. Check out the show notes and then email us or get in touch with us however you choose. We're also on Discord
Mhm.
at twodorks.net/Discord. We have a Those Were the Days channel in there. So join us. It's a bunch of good people in that Discord if that's your thing.
And we're there too.
Yeah, and believe it or not, we hang out in there. I'm in there like all day because I sit at a computer all the time. So it's a good place to go to chat with us and talk a little bit about the episodes, any classic TV stuff. I mean, it's a great time. Here recently, Stephanie and I fired up Dick Van Dyke Show over on Amazon just because it's like we haven't watched one in a while. We should watch it. Sat around giggling, having the best time. Classic TV is wonderful, and this show is a gift. But yeah, so that was it for Justin Wilson. Next week, Julia Child to roast a chicken. Watch that. That's your homework. Come back. Send us some feedback. Things you enjoyed about the episode. Things you want to hear us talk about that episode in particular. We'd love to hear from you. You can do that at thosewerethedayshow@gmail.com or thosedayshow on Twitter. So get on there, send us some feedback, talk to us, and we'll check that stuff out. But for now, that's it for me, for Amy, for Audie, for Travis, and for Justin Wilson. I hope you had a good time, I guarantee. And we will see you next time on Those Were the Days.
I done told you for truth.
Oh, I'm leaving that in there. That's staying.